How are you?
Thank you. I'm well, very well.
Not too warm here?
I think it's delightful. I like to be in Norway, whatever time of year.
Did you think when you started to write this second book, for example, that it should be such a success?
No, in fact, when I wrote the first book, I found out that my publisher was thinking of printing 6,500 copies. And I rang him in his office and asked him not to, because I thought that I'd be embarrassed and all my friends would laugh because the books would be in the remaindered baskets and selling at half price. And then I heard he was going to print 7,500, and I rang him again. So that shows how little confidence I had in my own work.
How many languages are the books translated to?
Well, 20 now.
20 languages?
Yes, yes.
And which are they?
Well, I know that it includes Russian and Hungarian and Portuguese and Japanese, French, Italian, Spanish. You could even say American, because I had to write a special glossary to explain to the Americans some of the English terms.
And at the same time, TV series?
Yes.
Radio series?
Yes.
And what more?
A musical, a stage musical, and that's it, because that's the limit of, I suppose.
Have you become a wealthy woman now?
Yes, comparatively wealthy, yes, definitely.
What do you do with your money?
Well, I've got a large family. I have 4 children of my own, and I live in Leicester with various relations around me. So I've bought them houses and things.
You buy houses? En gros?
Well, that way, when my sisters and my mother and my relations visit me, they won't feel resentful and jealous, and I can enjoy my house, which is not a mansion. It isn't a big house, but it's certainly bigger than the house we used to live in. It means that all my children can have a room of their own, which is a good thing to have, I think. It's quite a luxury.
So you say that you buy houses to your sister and the mother and so on?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, so I have very little money left now, but I don't mind that at all.
Kind girl.
No, I'm not kind. As I say, it's to stop me feeling uncomfortable and awkward when they visit.
How did you get the idea, Miss Townsend?
Right. Well, one Sunday afternoon it was pouring of rain, and this is years ago, and my eldest son, who is now 22 but was then quite young, said to me, "Why don't we ever go to safari parks like other families do?" That was the first time he sort of criticised the family. And because he was fed up with watching me reading the newspapers or reading generally on Sundays. And it just reminded me that that children often, behind their blank faces, are very resentful of their parents and very critical of their parents, although they're often too kind to say anything. And it reminded me of the secret life that most children lead in their heads. Well, everybody does, but children even more, I think. And it all came down at once, and I started to write it that afternoon.
You have 2 boys and 2 girls?
Yes, I do.
Is one of the boys Adrian Mole?
No, they're not at all. I think if anything, there's more of me and Adrian Mole, of how I felt at the same age, because I do think that boys and girls have a lot in common emotionally at that age.
Was it your intention to write a social story?
Yes, it was. I wanted to say a Martian landed from Mars. I wanted, if they wanted to know what it was like to live in England in the 1980s, the early 1980s, that they could read my book and know. I don't claim what it's like for one particular class of people in one particular town to live. I don't claim to have covered the whole of Britain. In fact, this is a very English book, specifically English. And so that's what I set out to do as well. I wanted to do that.
For me, it is difficult to understand that both father and mother are unemployed. Is that true, that a family can be like...
Yes, particularly this type of family, because they have no academic qualifications. They do not have skills that they can sell. They are really unskilled. I mean, George, his father, is a salesman, now I think people are going to business college. Young people are going to business college to learn how to be salesmen. But men of Georgie's age just automatically, when they left school, there were so many jobs they could pick and choose. I'm talking about unskilled jobs. And certainly for Pauline, there were lots of jobs she could have done. Because when I left school, I was 14. 2 weeks before my 15th birthday, I left school. And I could choose any amount of jobs. I could go to one job in the morning, and if I didn't like it, I could go to another one in the afternoon, and choose from very many. So of course, they're the same age as me, George and Pauline, more or less. But now it's very different. If I was not a writer, I would have great difficulty in finding a job.
Mm-hmm. You have been a social worker, haven't you?
Yes, I have, that's true. Yes.
Have you used some of your experiences from that time?
Yes, I have. I was working with maladjusted boys with behaviour difficulties for 11 years, and in a youth club. And they they regarded me as part of the furniture, so they were very frank in the way they spoke to each other. And I think they were very honest. So I think I was quite privileged to hear how boys of that age talk to each other when they think that nobody's around, because they considered me as not being around. I was too familiar. So I do know how absolutely sentimental they are about their parents. Mm. They were preoccupied with their parents. They were always talking about their parents and their parents' marriage, and particularly their grandparents. Mm. They were very fond of their grandparents.
Which thoughts have you for your children in the future? You have 4, you said.
Yes, I have 4.
And how old are they?
My eldest is 22. Then my next child is 18. And then I have a 17-year-old daughter. And then I have a 10-year-old daughter. So they go right through in age. And my hopes for them are the hopes of any parent in the whole world. I want them to have enough to eat. I want them to be employed, happily employed. And I want them to be kind people and curious people. I don't mean... I mean, I want them to have a curiosity about life, so that keeps them interested.
Do you know what plans they have themselves?
They are very, very different. I think my eldest boy would like to study forever. He's very interested in theatre, and I think he may eventually write. My 18-year-old wants to make lots of money and be rich. My 17-year-old daughter, all she wants to do is pass her driving test at the moment. She's failed once. She wants to have an interesting job, perhaps in theatre. And my 10-year-old wants to be an artist in the morning and an ice cream saleswoman in the afternoon.
Good combination.
Yes. And I just want to carry on working.
Mm. You have had a great immigration in your country, in England. Yes. Do you know how many millions have come in the last 20 years or so?
Well, I would have thought there were, I don't know exactly how many, but I would have thought by now there were perhaps 1 million immigrants from children and relations that have joined, yes. Certainly where I live in Leicester, 1 in 4 of the population is now Asian.
1 or 4?
1 in 4, yes, a quarter of the population of Leicester. Mm. And they are enormously valuable to the community. They have livened up the city of Leicester no end. It was a very dull place before they came. Yes, the food is better, the shops are better, the services are better. And they've added to the prosperity of Leicester. They're very hard-working people, and I think we're very proud of the community there.
Mostly from Asia, you said?
Mostly from Asia, yes. Mm.
And also Africa, I guess?
Yes, some from Kenya when Kenyatta threw them out. Mm-hmm.
Many are youngsters, many are in the school age.
Yes, they are.
Can you cope with the schooling problem in the universities?
Yes,
places?
because Well, universities are different because the government is cutting down on university places anyway. But had the government kept the normal university places, there would have been no problem, because the bulge, the so-called baby bulge of the 60s is now over, and there was a drop in babies being born after the 60s, so it's been okay, it's been fine. So if only the government would carry on funding universities and not cutting, we would be okay.
Back to Adrian Mole. When he is 16, I guess it was, he goes to a place and he comes on the list. He comes on the list for flats.
Yes. He wants, if I remember correctly, he wants a south-facing balcony, and it must have a working lift. Yes, I mean, that's to show the naivety of the boy, because in fact, even families with very many little children can't get a flat. They have to wait for years on a waiting list.
Yes.
But although, if he puts his name down at 16, of course, I suppose that's quite sensible.
So housing problem is...
Yes, there's a housing problem in Britain, yes. I mean, there aren't enough houses for the people that want them.
And Adrian, he studies very hard to become independent and clever. Is
Yes.
that usual for the English boys in his age?
No, not at all. He has to... The thing is about Adrian that he says somewhere in one of the books, he's clever. He's intelligent, but he's not very clever. Intelligence is a different thing from cleverness. Cleverness is to do with having skills and being able to use the intelligence. Unfortunately, he can't do that. He is bright. I think his best bet is to stick to poetry.
His poesy, yeah, he's a writer and he writes to BBC the whole time.
Yes, that's right.
You like this type, Adrian Mole, don't you?
I do like him very much indeed. I started out not to like him, in fact. I think you can tell from the first sort of 3 months of the first book, of The Secret Diary. I think you can tell I didn't like him. And then I just fell in love with the boy. And I like him very much indeed now.
How do your children like him?
Well, it's a strange thing, but my children kept the fact that I had written the book secret. They were almost ashamed of the fact, because my oldest boy sat in a classroom for a whole year and was taught by a man who was always talking about Adrian Mole. This man also had my theatre posters from plays that had been produced on the walls of the classroom. And my son didn't tell the teacher that I was his mother, so it was a secret.
He was embarrassed.
He was embarrassed. I think children don't like their parents, and particularly their mothers, to do anything out of the ordinary. I'm always told, if it's parents' evening at the school, don't wear your orange tights or your yellow tights.
Have you, Sir Townsend, plans to write more about Adrian Mole?
Well, I will write about him when he's 25, and I will wait until that time comes. I won't write now, because I obviously have to know what's happening in the world. And I want to know what kind of country Britain is, because, of course, that's what it's about as well. And so it's a few years' time.
Well, our time is soon up. It was very nice to have you in the studio. Wish you good luck, and all your children too.
That's very kind of you. I appreciate you asking me here. Thank you.